Hi, this is another educational video from A.M.N Education. I am your host, Anthony Nunez, and today I am going to guide you through the geography portion for you taking U.S. history. So, if you find this video useful, we hope that you subscribe to the channel to get the latest updates when videos are posted. This video can be modified to suit your educational speed by pausing and rewinding when necessary, going to the settings and adjusting the playback speed to suit your needs, or adding captions. The top geographic features you need to know for the United States history regions are the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Appalachian and the Rocky Mountains, the Mississippi River, the Great Lakes, Great Plains, and our border countries, which are Mexico and Canada. On the screen, you're seeing a geographic or physical map of the United States of America. We're going to start off on the right-hand portion where you have the Atlantic Ocean. So what I recommend students or teachers to give to their students is a blank map in the beginning of the year, and then you basically try to fill it out, either using the textbook to start out, but by the time you're done, you should be able to know where these features are from the top of your head before you go in to take the state exam. Now, although the video is tailored to the New York State Regents, this video can easily be applied to anyone looking to learn about United States history. So on the East Coast, we have the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic Ocean, which was the ocean taken by the Europeans who settled on the eastern coast of the United States. So in the eastern coast is where the original colonies, or the 13 colonies, were located. Now, on your regions, you will be asked, where were they located, which as we already said, on the East Coast, and what was their western boundary. Now, the western boundary was set by the Proclamation of 1763 by the British Empire, and they basically told them that they could not pass the Appalachian Mountains. Now, this was due to conflict with the Native Americans, but they were told they could not pass the Appalachian Mountains. Now, once we fought the British and defeated the British, we then moved and took over the Ohio Valley area, and our next western boundary would become the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River. So now we had expanded to this area right here. The next geographic feature that you're going to want to know is the Great Plains. The Great Plains. And we acquired most of the Great Plains via the Louisiana Purchase, which basically doubled the size of the United States. So the Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the United States, and it basically looked like a butterfly with the Mississippi River being in the middle. The next geographic feature you're going to have to know is the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains, and if we continue moving westward, another geographic feature you're going to have to know is the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean. We get this when we talk about manifest destiny and the belief that we want to control the land from sea to shining sea, or from coast to coast. Okay, going back to our northern border with Canada, we have our Great Lakes. Great Lakes, and one way to remember it is the acronym HOMES. HOMES, homes. And then on the southern side, we have Mexico. All right, here's the Gulf of Mexico, which actually was the key reason for us wanting to buy the Louisiana Purchase, because we would get the port of New Orleans. Okay, so if I had to give some short notes on geography in the United States, I would say, remember, the colonies are located on the East Coast, and the colonists were told they could not pass the Appalachian Mountains. Okay, so that was our western boundary under British rule. Upon attaining independence, we then go to the Mississippi River. Then we buy the Louisiana Purchase, which doubled the size of the U.S. And we get all these other territories. Florida, we take from Spain. Texas, we're going to annex from Mexico. Oregon territory, we work out an agreement with Britain with the 49th parallel. That's why it's a straight line across the northern part of the U.S. The Mexican secession, so this is the Mexican-American War. This is where we fought Mexico and we gained control of Cali, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado. Okay, if I'm a teacher, I'm going to want to focus on Louisiana Purchase, Mexican-American War, and the Spanish-American War. I'll explain that at the end of this video. We then do the Gadsden Purchase, where we pay Mexico for a little strip that would put us in the southern border just a little bit more. You'll see it in the map. Alaska, we buy from Russia. And during the imperialism era, with the Spanish-American War, we acquire Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, Philippines, and we actually help liberate Cuba, and we declare them a protectorate. So, I'm going to go through some sample test questions, which again, they're tailored to the New York Regents exam, but these are questions that you could see on any exam in any state where they are testing you on the U.S. history. So, if you want to review some videos on how to approach multiple choice questions, DBQs, or essays, I'll have those posted on the channel. So this is from the Regents in June of 2018. And the question is, what was a main reason large plantations developed in the South during the colonial period? Okay, now a good approach, you want to narrow it down to two options, right? You want to narrow it down to two options. And if you know that the South of the U.S. is like Florida, South Carolina, you know that this area is generally warm and it's more conducive to longer growing seasons. So that would narrow your question down to 4, okay? So if I was taking the test, I would eliminate 2 answers, okay? 2 answers, and in this case, probably 3 and 2, right? Because 2 is very specific, so they're probably not going to get that specific on the test. So I would take 2 and 3 out, get left with 1 and 4, and I'm going to just go with 4 because they're talking about why large plantations developed, and this would be the best fit for that question. So the next one, same regions. So they go to question 8 and 9 in the same regions. Which 2 areas of the map made up the United States in 1803? So as a result of the Louisiana Purchase. So if you know where the Louisiana Purchase is, we said kind of looks like a butterfly right here. So we know that this D is part of the Louisiana Purchase. So if we know D is part of the Louisiana Purchase, we know the answer has to be between 2 and 3, right? So it says B or A. So B, Florida, or A? Nope, because now the whole U.S. will be comprised of A and D. So 2 is the best answer for number 8. 2 is the best answer for number 8. Number 9. Which of these areas was acquired as a result of the Mexican-American War? So now we know Mexico is in the South, based off our knowledge of geography. Mexico's in the South. So we know that it's going to have to be some territory over here. If we know Mexico's in the South, we know it's going to have to be over here. So G, H, or E. So I don't see E. I don't see H, but I do see G, right? So G would be the best fit for this one. Since we know Mexico's down here, G would be the best answer for this question. Next one. This one comes from the January 2018 Regents, and it's asking us, during the colonial period, British North America, the major geographic barrier to western westward expansion was so we know that the colonies were located on the East Coast, and British told them they could not pass the mountains. Now, which mountains? Okay, which mountains? Appalachian Mountains. Okay, one way that I tell students that they could possibly remember, that A comes before R, and that one is going to be on the East Coast. So A is before R. We know it's the Appalachian Mountains on the East Coast. Okay. So if I was taking a test, you could narrow it down to the mountains. 1 and 2 would be gone, and we're narrowing down to Rocky Appalachian, and it's the Appalachian Mountains. Next question. Same January 2018 test. The United States purchase of the Louisiana Territory in 1803 was geographically important because now, we know it's going to double the size of the U.S. We know it has connections to the Gulf. So assured sole ownership of the Great Lakes. Great Lakes? No. This is north. We can eliminate that. Ended Spanish control of the Southwest. We know the Spanish are in the South. Let's say you had that one as a maybe, right? You wasn't sure. Provide full access to the Mississippi River. Okay, we know the Mississippi River is in the area, so that's a maybe 2. And then 4, allowed completion of the first railroad California. We know it wasn't in Cali, so we can take that one out. It's between 2 and 3. And 3 is going to be the best answer because it's going to provide full access to the Mississippi River, all right, especially down south in the port of New Orleans. Okay, this one comes from the August 2017 Regents, and it's asking which geographic feature contributed most to the settlement of the colonies along the Atlantic coast. Okay, so we're talking about the colonies, so we're talking about the East Coast, and they're trying to figure out what's going to be a major factor in the East Coast. So 1, mountainous terrain. Well, we know the Appalachian Mountains are nearby, so maybe, right? Question mark there. Extensive mineral deposits. I don't know any teacher that's talking about the mineral deposits while teaching U.S. Regular courses. Subtropical climate. Nah. That only accounts for part, some tropical climate down south, subtropical, nah. So we're going to take out 2 and 3, and navigable rivers and harbors, and we're going to pick 4 because we know that the early settlers were coming from the Atlantic Ocean and were settling along the coast and in places where there were rivers so that they could easily trade goods. Okay, so they could easily trade goods. So that's why 4 would be the best answer for this question. June 2017. Which geographic feature most influenced the development of large plantations in the southeastern region of the United States? Similar to the other question that they gave us. But now they've changed up the options. So arid land. I don't know about that. Cool climate. Does the cool climate apply to the South? Probably not. Pine forest. Well, we know the forest is a little bit on the north side. So if I'm taking off 2 and I am taking off pine forest, I'll take that out because that's more in like the New York area. And we're between 1 and 4. The best answer for this one is going to be 4. Fertile lowlands, which connects with the plantations. Good for farming, okay? Good for farming. Fertile lowlands. Regents June 2017. Okay, with this one, I went a little bit ahead, but I wanted you to see how they could apply geography to other eras in your U.S. history course. So it won't just be the stuff you learn in the beginning of the course. You're going to learn it in the Movement West, and you're going to learn it in the Great Depression. at all points of the history, there should be some type of geography thrown into the mix. It becomes more of a global thing once we get into the wars and the cold and modern day era. But here's this question. 14. The passage of the Homestead Act and the completion of the first transcontinental railroad encouraged settlement in which region? Okay, in which region? So we got 1862, 1869. You know that the Civil War is around that time, and this transcontinental. So this is a railroad that's going from the East Coast to West Coast across the whole continent. All right, so Atlantic Coastal Plains. Doesn't sound good. Great Plains, we skipped that one. Yeah, that it might be this because this is, in the middle of expanding. Haw River Valley, maybe. Gulf Coast. Well, the Gulf Coast doesn't really go all the way. So the best one for this one is actually going to be one, the Great Plains. Great Plains. And the reason it's the Great Plains is because the Homestead Act. So we wanted people to move west. So we as in the United States enacted the Homestead Act to incentivize people to move west, in particular to the Great Plains. Next question. Another one where I want to show you how they can bring in geography, not just in the beginning of the test with the colonies, but they can bring it in future content. And this is during the Great Depression. So in the 1930s, during the Great Depression, the shaded area outlined on the map became known as, so we know that over here is the Rocky Mountains and the Great Plains. And if you know about the Great Depression, you know that the Dust Bowl happened during the Great Plains. So the best answer would be Dust Bowl. Again, they're showing you geography and they're giving you hints with 1930s, Great Depression, and Dust Bowl will be your best answer. One or two more. So, which geographic feature did the British government use in 1763 as a boundary to restrict the westward settlements of American colonists? Okay, 1763. They throw that out there. Now, some people glance over that topic, but it's the Proclamation Line of 1763. This is again the British telling the colonies that they couldn't pass a certain geographic feature moving westward. St. Lawrence River probably wasn't covered by any of your history teachers, so it's probably not that one. We know it's a mountain. We got Rocky Mountains, Appalachian Mountains, Mississippi River. No, not for this case. So it's one of these two, and like I said, A comes before R. Is the Appalachian Mountains. Okay, 3 is the best bet. The January 2016 Regents. What was a primary goal of President Thomas Jefferson's 1803 decision to purchase the Louisiana Territory? Okay, so now we got 1803 decision. We know it's the Louisiana Territory. Why did they buy that? Studying Native American Indian societies. We hardly ever were nice to the Native Americans, so it's probably not that. Mining gold and silver. Sounds good. Gold and silver is good, right? 3, gain control of the Port of New Orleans. Now, the Port of New Orleans is by the Gulf Coast. That sounds good, too. Securing access to iron ore deposits in the Great Lakes. We know that the Louisiana Purchase was a little west of most of the Great Lakes, so that's not it. So we narrow it down to 2 and 3 because we think gold sounds good, and we know that it's by New Orleans, and the best answer is gaining control of the Port of New Orleans because that's going to give us more trading abilities with the Caribbean, and we're going to be able to take our goods from the Mississippi River and trade them more easily. Now, we switch to what you see in front of you is a thematic essay. So I encourage teachers and students to either teach it from the angle of making sure that you have the Louisiana Purchase down packed, the Mexican-American War down packed, and the Spanish-American War down packed. Because if you have those three down packed, you can defend yourself on a question about geography by including those three topics, or if you get a question on political parties or the formation of a nation, you can bring in the Louisiana Purchase and how it was a tough decision for Thomas Jefferson. Why do I say that? Because they give you this starter, which a lot of students use as to start out their intro paragraph. But remember, you have to add on more or reword it. Throughout the nation's history, the U.S. has expanded through the acquisition of new territories. These acquisitions have had both positive and negative effects in the U.S. We know that, okay? And they ask you to pick two territories and describe the historical circumstance. That's just what's happening in that time period. That's why knowing the Louisiana Purchase, Mexican-American War, and the Spanish-American War helps you for this portion of the exam. Because if we look at the sample options or suggested options, you have Ohio River Valley, which 1783 we know comes after we beat up the British, and then Louisiana Territory. Okay, boom, that's with the Louisiana Purchase. This is an easy one where you can bring in Thomas Jefferson and how he was conflicted about buying the Louisiana Territory, and you can really fluff out this essay. Florida, Texas, Florida we kind of like glance over. Texas we spend some time with. California we spend some time with. You can bring in the Mexican-American War in this topic. Then if you look at the other ones, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Philippines, it's an easy one to talk about the Spanish-American War, okay? And go to the How to Work the Essays video to get more information on how to write these essays. Here's how they bring in geography into the DBQ questions. So here's a DBQ question, right? And they're asking us, according to the author, in this case James, what was one reason to annex Hawaii in the 1890s? So one easy thing to do for the students is that make sure that your answer is inside the document. Literally, students get this stuff wrong because they start making up answers. Okay, get it from the documents. You can take a line from the documents, bring it into your answer. So if you were to take, for example, the second sentence, tropics at a distance from San Francisco about 2,000 miles. Okay, well, one reason for the annex, well, it was about 2,000 miles from San Francisco. That sounds like a good reason to take Hawaii, right? And if you keep reading, in the aggregate, their area is nearly equal to Massachusetts. Agriculturally, they have not begun to develop. Whoa, there's some money involved there. So that's probably another good answer, right? Because if they're not developed, the U.S. as a developed country can go in there, into Hawaii, and help them develop agriculturally where we can potentially profit from. So either one of those two would have been a good answer, but I just wanted you to see, so you could pause the video and you could read the whole document. But this is how a DBQ could come up on geography, could come up on your regions. Also, they like to take maps, right? So the same way that we showed some maps on the multiple choice portion, they can take those and bring those into the documents. Now, this was January 2018, and this is a DBQ essay. So in this one, they're going to be talking about expansion, right? Expansion. And once again, you can make sure that you have a working knowledge of the Mexican-American War. That would help you with the 1840s and the 1890s, going into the early 1900s. You could talk about the Spanish-American War and the impact there. But they'll give you the documents, okay? So they'll give you the documents. You include the documents. You can expand on the documents with your knowledge if you go in ready for the exam, okay? And you bring in the historical circumstance. You bring in some outside info, okay? So overall, I hope that this helps you de-stress with geography and you have increased your skills on geography. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get the latest updates when videos are posted. We wish you the best with your class and the Regents. These videos are created to supplement the work your teacher is doing, not supplant. So remember to pay attention in class and continue learning to the best of